This episode has been made possible by Call of War. Join the war with a country of your choice in the free online PvP strategy game, Call of War. Unite with millions of users worldwide and challenge other players in heroic real-time battles using numerous units and secret weapons to build out your army. Declare wars to conquer neighboring countries and fight up to 100 real players per map. Forge alliances to engage in epic, historically accurate World War II battles and surroundings. Lead your forces to victory and write the history yourself. Use combat experience and strategy to expose the enemy's weakness and highlight your strengths by using appropriate unit types such as tanks, planes, and ships. Dispatch the infantry to intimidate your opponents, tank rush your foes, control the airspace, and take command of the sea. Invest in the research tree to use atomic bombs, V-2 rockets, and other highly destructive weapons from World War II. Obliterate provinces, capture capitals, take over entire nations, and build your empire. Call of War allows you to play with the same account on both PC and mobile. By clicking on our link in the description below, you get 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free, available only for 30 days. Mobile shields, World War I. Weird tech. World War I was the war of innovations and new types of weapons and equipment. A lot of effort was made to protect the soldiers both in the trenches and in no man's land. One way to do it was with the help of infantry shields. Sniper shields were a kind of small metal shield that served to protect snipers from enemy fire. These were good as protection if he was well concealed, but were far too heavy to be used when advancing. For that reason, mobile shields were introduced to be carried by soldiers into battle. These shields were initially quite small, and therefore only provided minimal protection to the soldiers. They only really protected the soldier's torso, leaving his limbs exposed to a risk of injury. There was a tendency to make big, strong, and heavy shields that could protect a soldier's entire body. It also had to be able to be moved around the battlefield. The only solution was to put wheels on them. These were to be known as mobile shields. Their purpose was to provide cover to one or several soldiers that were advancing across the field or no man's land. The idea of shields on wheels was actually born a few decades earlier during the Cuban War, when US troops used the first movable shields. The idea was adopted by the British and French armies and brought into service during World War I. Even though all designs included heavy steel plates that were capable of withstanding small arms fire, their use was questionable in reality. The first mobile shield was created by the French. It was quite a simple design that consisted of a heavy steel gun shield mounted on two large hollow wooden wheels. The wheels were filled with sand to give them some weight and make them stable while moving. The front plate had a slot with a movable shutter. Looking through the slot, a soldier was able to see the direction in which he was crawling, but was also able to aim and fire his rifle. The French introduced the shield in 1917, and by the end of the war had made a considerable number of them. They were mostly used for cutting through barbed wire. Hidden behind the shield, the soldier was protected from enemy fire while crawling towards his objective. The British one-man tank was a bit more complex. This mobile shield was made completely out of metal, including the wheels. The hull was made of chrome nickel steel and covered almost the entire body of the soldier up to his thighs. The inside of the hull was fitted with grips for the soldier to hold so he could handle the shield. In order to move it, the soldier had to crawl on his knees, which was a very uncomfortable position. On the bottom side, it had two hinged skirts that provided side protection while moving about on uneven terrain. Unlike the French design, the one-man tank had two horizontal and two vertical slits on both sides of the plate that served as viewports. On the left side, there was an additional slot for aiming and firing a rifle. This had a shutter to close when it was not required. The front plate had an angular shape in order to deflect small arms fire. The French version had a large hook mounted on the front plate so that it could be towed into position if necessary. The British designed another two mobile shields during the war. Both were of a much larger and heavier construction than the one-man tank. The first one was a larger scale version of the French design and was big enough to provide cover for 5 soldiers. It had 5 embrasures on the front plate, 3 on the top part and 2 on the bottom part of the plate. It was very cumbersome and difficult to move, and it never went beyond the trial stage of its development. The second large mobile shield was really huge. It was called the Ped Rail. It was a platform for a machine gun with a large, thick front plate and 2 hinged side plates. Both side plates had 4 slots for the rifleman. The front shield was 5 feet 11 inches wide, or 1.8 meters, and 4 feet 11 inches, or 1.5 meters tall. With the side plates fully open, the shield had a width of 9 feet 10 inches, or 3 meters. With a machine gun mounted, it weighed 3,000 pounds, or 1,360 kilograms, making it very difficult to move around. It seemed that both these shields were designed for static rolls only, probably as road or street barricades. Mobile shields featured on the Eastern Front as well. A German photo from 1914 shows the Russians had mobile shields of their own. It is unknown whether they produced them on a larger scale or not, but it's obvious that they were aware of the concept. The Russian mobile shield was also huge. It was wide enough to protect 5 soldiers standing and another 5 in a prone position. Therefore, it had 10 slots set in 2 rows on the sloped front plate. On the side, the shield had 2 large diameter wheels and 4 small auxiliary wheels behind the plate. The construction was so bulky that it needed a lot of manpower to be moved around. Basically, the mobile shield was just too bulky and unwieldy to be of any use. They were very big, very heavy, and therefore very slow out in the field, and unable to keep up with the advancing infantry. The sluggishness, however, seemed to be a minor problem regarding their mobility. The whole construction of mobile shields was too crude to be able to move around on the moon-like craters of the terrain of the World War I battlefields. Heavy metal wheels had no suspension, which made a terrain filled with shell holes impassable, even to the smallest mobile shields. Finally, all mobile shields were designed to protect a soldier from small arms fire being directed in front of him, except for the British one-man tank, which also protected the sides. Since they had no other protection, soldiers behind the shield were completely vulnerable to shrapnel coming from shells exploding around and above them. Because of the poor protection that they offered and their lack of maneuverability, mobile shields became perfect targets for the artillery, which was the most destructive weapon on the battlefield. These disadvantages questioned justifying the use of the shield and were probably the reasons why they were not used on a larger scale. In any case, mobile shields stand as another curious weapon of World War I. This episode was brought to you by Call of War. Establish world dominance in Call of War's challenging games that last for several weeks. Take command over one nation during the darkest hours of human history, the Second World War. Click on the link in the description below and get 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. Available only for 30 days. Choose your country and fight your way to victory.